What does freedom mean to you? Does it mean the freedom to choose? The freedom to have a family and raise your kids according to your own values? What about living a wild, adventurous life, experimenting with music, relationships, or art? What does freedom really mean? What if freedom meant something that only a few Americans still understood? What if it meant that your choices and your values were set by you, rather than by some politician in a far-off capital? Some people think we're only free to choose to live exactly how they live, by their moral code, or their narrow worldviews. But if liberty means anything, it means that you, and you alone, have the power to exercise your rights to which the laws of nature and nature's God granted you. It's time to put these principles back into action. It's time to restore the American dream, activate in our communities, and take our country back. It's time to wake up, America. Good morning, it's 7:03. You're watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Petersen. It's time to rise in freedom. Hurricane Ian is expected to hit Florida as an extremely dangerous Category 4 storm. It's Tampa Bay's first major storm in 100 years. Winds were hitting 155 miles per hour as the storm traveled over the Gulf of Mexico. We'll be keeping an eye on the news this morning, and we'll also be discussing some of the most destructive hurricanes in American history. We are keeping the people of Florida and Cuba in our thoughts and prayers today. And then, a family who indulges in one of my favorite hobbies got quite a surprise, and a visit from the feds with a bunch of military surplus crates they had bought items in that any freedom lover would be delighted to own. We'll discuss. And at 7:30, how to spend money to make money. My first column at the Foundation for Economic Education appeared yesterday, and it's gotten a terrific response. Jon Miltimore will join me to discuss how you can make a small investment and turn it into a bigger pile of cash. And Mark Zuckerberg finally did something to earn my respect, despite the fact that my reach is squashed on the platform and I'm technically suspended for another month, and my comments are hidden, and I'm basically public enemy number one over there, especially with the topic for today. I'm going to say something nice about Mark Zuckerberg at 7:50 a.m. today. And at 8 a.m., Edward Snowden is granted full Russian citizenship. What does that mean for this libertarian-minded whistleblower? Judge Napolitano will join me to discuss the implications for our national security and for our liberty. And at 8:30, let's have some fun and talk about 90s t-shirt brands that were pure trash. And speaking of trash, at the end of the show, half of single men report they won't approach women for fear of being labeled creepy. Let's talk about that and all that and more on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. We're keeping an eye on what's happening down on the Gulf Coast as Hurricane Ian is moving in with her as a Category 4 storm. Again, this is Tampa Bay's first major storm in 100 years. And as I had said in the intro, it looks as if winds were hitting up to 155 miles an hour this morning. And it's wild to me to consider the fact that Tampa Bay's first major storm in 100 years. We are hoping that people will stay safe down there. Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, came out with a statement this morning. I've been keeping an eye on the news. Let's see if we can let's take a look and see if we can pull up some of the footage over here. Head over to our I'm going to switch scenes for just a moment. Let's take a look at what's going on in the news here. I've got you set up so that we can see some of the storms here. Yeah, I've got some of the footage. Let's peek in and see what's going on here with the hurricane.
Force winds are really going to be closer to where that center kind of travels through our area, which will include Sarasota, Manatee, Hardy, DeSoto, and especially into Polk County, Lee.
Yeah, really looking at those southern areas for the strongest winds. So let's take you through to about noon, close to landfall, the Venice area. This could see a forecast wind speed of 114 miles per hour. As we head into the afternoon, now it's 117 miles per hour, and many of us are in the 50 to 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gust range. And then the evening comes, and look, we're still dealing with 70 mile per hour winds overnight into tomorrow morning. Back to you.
From what I've been reading and studying this morning, it's looking as if the hurricane is expected to make landfall, around noon, and that the really big winds are going to start overnight. And so we're going to keep an eye on that story this morning. I was doing a little bit of research and I saw that our illustrious commander in chief decided to make a statement about the hurricane yesterday. Let's take a listen.
Let me be clear. If you're in a state where hurricanes often strike, like Florida or the Gulf Coast or into Texas, a vital part of preparing for hurricane season is to get vaccinated now. Everything is more complicated if you're not vaccinated and a hurricane or a natural disaster hits. Let me be clear.
What?
If you're in a state where hurricanes often strike, like Florida or the Gulf Coast or into Texas, a vital part of preparing for hurricane season is to get vaccinated.
Okay, well, not sure about that one. You can text the show this morning, 573-319-1586. That's right. You can text the show, 573-319-1586. My beautiful wife, Stephanie, over on the live stream this morning on Facebook said, get vaccinated for a hurricane? Is there a hurricane vaccine? Yeah. Let's see. Looks like Josh Douglas says, AP, I'm in Florida in Ian's track. Josh, well, thank you first of all for tuning in when you've got so much going on. He says maybe DeSantis can bust the hurricane to Martha's Vineyard. Now that's just great stuff. That's just great stuff. We love to see it. Josh, I'm glad that you've got a good attitude this morning. We're glad to have you here. We'd love to have updates from you. If you want to call the show, you can. 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. If you've got some updates on the ground that you want to share with us, we'd be happy to take your call this morning, or anyone who's in Florida in the path of the hurricane. If you want to give us a call, you can. You can also text the show, 573-319-1586. We'd love to hear about what's going on down there in terms of being able to get supplies. What do store shelves look like? We'd like to hear a little bit about what the situation is on the ground down there. So if you have time and you want to send us a text or give us some more information, or again, you can call in at 573-319-1586. Again, 573-319-1586. All right, I'm going to pull up another story that I have for you here. I've been working on this morning. Let's transition over there. And I was looking at this is a picture you can see pulled up on the screen right now. This is some of the deadliest hurricanes from American history. The photo that you're seeing right now on the screen, and again, if you're listening on the podcast later, sorry about that. I'll describe it to the best I can, but we are a video live stream. And of course, the best way to view and listen to the show is to do so live, which is every Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. The photographs that you're looking at right here, this is from Galveston, Texas. Right here, this is the Galveston hurricane of 1900. This was the deadliest natural disaster in United States history. Right? Some people thought that it was Katrina. Katrina was the most expensive, but the Galveston hurricane in 1900, this was the deadliest in U.S. history. It killed between 6,000 and 12,000 people in Texas. I mean, thousands. Can you imagine? It destroyed over 7,000 buildings and left over 10,000 people homeless. Unbelievable. You can scroll down here. You can see this is from 1926. The Great Miami Hurricane of 1926 destroyed portions of South Florida and killed about 373 people. So imagine that, right? So 373 people, which is a lot. But the Galveston hurricane, let me come back up here. This killed 6,000 to 12,000 people in Texas. Now you can imagine that with our technology today, that more people are going to get notices and things like that a lot earlier. I'm not sure, what they had in 1900 in terms of weather prediction, but I imagine it was fairly sparse. Another hurricane sometimes called the Long Island Express. This is a New England hurricane. Yeah, they do get them up on the East Coast as well. Of 1938, it rushed over New York to hit Connecticut and Boston with 12-foot storm surges. An estimated 600 people died in that storm. This is a name for my grandmother. In 1954, Hurricane Hazel killed between 400 to 1,000 people in Haiti, caused at least 95 deaths in the United States after it first hit Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Hazel became an extratropical storm where it killed another 100 people in Canada. Can you imagine? Hurricane Donna, named after my mother, 1960, killing 50 people in the continental United States and 107 in Puerto Rico. Donna is the only hurricane on record to hit Florida, Florida, the Mid-Atlantic, and New England with hurricane force winds. You can see here, some of you might remember this, Hurricane Andrew in 1992. This was one of the most destructive in United States history. The storm caused an estimated $30 billion in damage. Andrew also spawned at least 28 tornadoes along the Gulf Coast. Yeah, they can spawn tornadoes. I didn't know that until this morning, but apparently hurricanes can cause tornadoes. And Andrew did that. It spawned at least 28. 126,000 homes were destroyed. 180,000 people were left homeless from Hurricane Andrew. I was just a little boy. I barely remember. Now, one of the deadliest storms in United States history, one of them, Hurricane Katrina, killed at least 1,833 people, and it's tied with Hurricane Harvey as the costliest storm in U.S. history. It caused $125 billion in damage, and it caused a massive humanitarian crisis. 15,000 to 20,000 people took shelter in the Louisiana Superdome. I'm sure many of you remember that quite well. George Bush does not care about black people. Remember Kanye West saying that? It's not my quote. That's Kanye's. You can text the show this morning with your updates on the storm at 573-319-1586. Hurricane Sandy in 2012. This was the largest Atlantic hurricane on record when it was measured by diameter. This caused an estimated $70 billion in damage across 24 states, including the entire eastern seaboard. 157 Americans died during that storm. Now, Harvey, some of you will remember from 2017, this flooded the streets of downtown Houston. This was the wettest storm on record, dropped over 60 inches of rainwater on southeast Texas. The storm displaced about 30,000 people in Texas and killed 68. Now, in 2017, Hurricane Maria was the strongest hurricane to hit Puerto Rico in over 80 years. It devastated the island's power grid and caused the worst blackout in U.S. history. Maria killed almost 3,000 people on Puerto Rico alone. Were any of those surprising to you? Can you imagine? Can you believe that Galveston storm, the one of 1900, killing 6,000 to 12,000 people in Texas, destroying 7,000 buildings and left 10,000 people homeless? That is just absolutely unbelievable. We've got a lot more coverage that we're going to keep an eye on this morning. If you want to send us a text, you can. 573-319-1586. Again, that's 573-319-1586. When we get back, one of my favorite hobbies, collecting military surplus. You know, just firearms and militaria from history. Well, apparently another couple decided to do that. They bought some boxes from the U.S. government in military surplus. What they found inside, it would be such a dream come true for a guy like me, and maybe for a guy or a girl like you. What do you think? Wait until we get back and I share what they found in these boxes. Maybe you already know, but if you don't, you'll have to stick around on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com.
It's morning again in America. Our country is prouder and stronger and better.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today.
Fire.
Your printing company stinks. They charge you too much money and they don't love America enough. We've got the solution. Patriot Printing USA. Whether you're running for office, saving souls, or just need business cards that will get you the new job you've been looking for, Patriot Printing USA has got you covered with the best prices around. Palm cards, brochures, bumper stickers, door hangers, you name it, we've got it. PatriotPrintingUSA.com. That's PatriotPrintingUSA.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
Average Americans are turning into conspiracy theorists at an unprecedented rate. Flip City Magazine was created for new converts to aid in their in-depth research along the path of absolute truth. We offer the hardest-hitting news and opinion, delivered uncensored in print directly to your door. Display proudly on your coffee table, or hide discreetly under your mattress. Flip City is the magazine they don't want you to see, much less read. Subscribe to Flip City Magazine today at flipcitymag.com.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom at 7:20. You're watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Petersen. Thanks so much for watching. You can text in at 573-319-1586. Have you noticed the weather starting to turn? No, not what's going down in Florida, but I mean, you get up in the morning, you head out to your vehicle, and you're getting ready for work, and you see, it's not just dew on your windows anymore, it's that frost. Oh, boy. Gotta drink that strong coffee to wake up. Get ready for the show, Austin. Let's go. We're live now. You can't keep screwing around. It's time to do the show. All right, this is a story that I read yesterday that I'll just tell you, it excited me. It titillated me. But it also infuriated me. After I read this story, I was left feeling sort of just like,
Oh my God, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
yeah. And then when it was all over, I was just kind of like, you feel just like a little baby, just so upset. Your fellow Americans, and they behave like this. Now, I got to be really careful about what I say about this story, not just because, well, if you notice the misspelling of the words machine or the word machine and machine guns, it's because I'm trying not to run afoul of the censors, because I'm already hanging by a thread in most of these social networks for talking about things like this. Yesterday, federal authorities, it was reported, are trying to figure out how at least a dozen fully automatic M16s ended up among military surplus equipment sold to a Houston couple. Hooray! The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms executed a search warrant. Thank you, audience. Executed a search warrant in Richmond area storage facility on Monday afternoon. Now that came, and this is where it really gets bad. That came only after the couple voluntarily notified authorities of their highly unusual find.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
God.
No! No!
Last week, the couple who they run a side hustle buying surplus lots, and they divide up the products and then sell them on eBay. They received delivery of a storage of 108 crates from a government surplus website, which I need to figure out what that website is. They over the weekend, a friend was helping them store and stack these cases, and as a thank you, oh my God, they gave one of these cases to the friend, but when the friend opened the case, he realized that it was not empty. Inside were 12 fully automatic M16s. Wow. All of them still had various tags designating the military branch and the name of the service members who handled the weapons.
Perfect.
I mean, those were, oh God, those are living pieces of modern history. And you call the feds? The husband, who did not want to be identified, said, we just purchased these cases. We never expected anything in there. Supposedly, the sender should check every single box to make sure there's nothing dangerous or anything. It's just a case. Everybody can buy it online, the wife said. Ugh, God.
How dare you?
So unsure of what to do, the couple reported the M16s to the authorities, and within hours, it takes the ATF months, maybe even like over a year, to get your suppressor paperwork done. But if you tell them that there's some M16s that you found in a box, well, all of a sudden they show up. So they spent most of Monday on location going through these boxes, stacking multiple gun cases. The Houston police captain out there is like, it's incredible. It's surreal. It's unbelievable to think military-grade weapons would be shipped in containers across state lines. It's pretty shocking. It's unbelievable to think military weapons will go across state lines. Oh my God, state lines. State lines. They went across state lines, people. The machine guns went across the state lines. Oh my God. Oh.
Perfect.
Oh God. It's one of the strictest things we have in the military is weapons accountability. Yeah, sure. Yeah, weapons accountability. I wonder how accountable they are about all of the guns that are being handed out in Ukraine right now. You think that there's a lot of accountability going on, or do you think that anybody can just walk up with a swastika patch on their arm and say, "I'm fighting for Ukrainian freedom," and they're like, "Oh, yeah, here you, yuck, yuck. We believe in accountability. Let's give you some military weapons." It's unbelievable, Freeman said. Unbelievable. One of the strictest things we have in the military is weapons accountability. He continued on, for these boxes to have M16s in them and be shipped to a public destination. Not only is it shocking, but it's a federal crime. Oh. The ATF confirmed that they're doing an investigation along with the FBI. They will not say how many weapons were recovered. From the photographs, it looks like there were at least 10 of them in there, and the company pulled all the other cases for sale online. Yeah. And the last comment here, the last comment from the wife is just the nail in the coffin. She goes, "We are good citizens," the wife said, adding she's now reluctant to buy military surplus equipment and fearful to run afoul of the law. This story, man, I tell you, what do you think? Send me a text, 573-319-1586. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this one. Again, send me a text, 573-319-1586. Now, I'm not going to tell you how to do anything illegal, and I'm not going to say I would do anything illegal, but What's wrong with you? You find something like that, and it's a piece of military history, and you call the feds? I mean, you call the feds on yourself. It reminds me a little bit, and I wonder if I can find the video. Now, I'm not going to have time to pull it up, of the video of this one lady who, like, was anti-gun, and she took an AR-15. She's like, I'm going to destroy this AR-15. Some of you might have seen this story. She's like, I'm going to destroy this AR-15, and she goes out there on camera, and she actually like destroys with a saw. She cuts the barrel off of the AR-15, thereby committing a federal crime on camera because she's so anti-gun that she tries to destroy a weapon and ends up creating a federal crime. There's a certain way that you have to go about destroying guns. And with this, I mean, what a bounty. I mean, this is a gift from heaven, a gift from the gods. How could you do something so terrible? All I have to say,
Donald Trump, if you can hear us, please, Donald Trump, please save me. Please save me, Donald Trump.
We need you.
I'm asking you.
Would you do it? Would you turn them in? 573-319-1586. You're going to be like, nice try, Fed. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Well, man, who knows? All right. We're going to have a great show today. We've got lots of great content. We're tracking what's happening with the storm in Florida. Hurricane Ian is on its way, looking to shape up into a pretty nasty Category 4 storm. This is Tampa Bay's first major storm in 100 years. Winds have been hitting at about 155 miles an hour as the storm was traveling over the Gulf of Mexico. We're going to be keeping an eye on the news this morning, and we're going to be discussing some of the most destructive hurricanes in history. If you're in Florida this morning and you want to give us a call and let us know what things look like, we'd love to hear from you. You can text us at 573-319-1586. You can also call the show again at 573-319-1586. When we get back from the commercial break, we're going to talk to Jon Miltimore at the Foundation for Economic Education about an article I wrote yesterday going viral, How to Make Money. How to make money. Sounds simple, right? Well, it actually is a lot simpler. Now you don't have to have some kind of cockamamie, harebrained scheme. You just have to watch the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here. And we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
The Wake Up America show with Austin Petersen. This show has been a huge venture for our family, so we would love it if you could join us.
I believe in liberty, and I believe in Austin's ability to spread the ideas of liberty. Do you?
I want to ask you today to join Petersen's Patriots with a pledge of $17.76 a month. Help us to stay cancel-proof so we can spread the message of limited government across the country. I joined Petersen's Patriots myself, just in a little different way. Visit wakeupamericashow.com/support and make your pledge today.
Average Americans are turning into conspiracy theorists at an unprecedented rate. Flip City Magazine was created for new converts to aid in their in-depth research along the path of absolute truth. We offer the hardest-hitting news and opinion delivered uncensored in print directly to your door. Displayed proudly on your coffee table, or hide discreetly under your mattress. Flip City is the magazine they don't want you to see, much less read. Subscribe to Flip City Magazine today at flipcitymag.com.
Speaker Pelosi's husband, Paul, made a big investment in chips just before Congress votes on a bill that would give $52 billion in subsidies and tax credits to the chip industry.
Over the course of your career, has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information he received from you?
No.
And I believe if you come to our border, you will be turned back. Do not come. Do not come.
Have you ever received a royalty payment from a company that you later oversaw money going to that company?
You know, I don't know as a fact, but I doubt it.
Well, here's the thing is, why don't you let us know?
Good morning, it's 7:34. It's time to rise in freedom. You're watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Petersen. Glad to have you here. Boy, that last story was a doozy, right? It just make you feel all disgusting inside. But it's time for us to move on, change topics. Let's talk about something a little bit more fun. We've got a good buddy of mine on the line. His name is Jon Miltimore from the Foundation for Economic Education. He's joining me on Zoom right now. Good morning, Jon. How are you doing today, sir?
Good morning, Austin. Doing well over here. We got a crisp, September morning here in Minnesota. There's some frost out there, and I think it's about 40 degrees right now.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely one of those. Are you a coffee drinker, Jon?
Right here. I got my Nespresso coffee going. Have you had the Nespresso before?
What is it?
Somebody at FEE put me on it. It was Hannah Cox, actually. It brews kind of like European-style coffee. It's got like a good frothy. She told me about it. It's only $150. It brews really good coffee. I like it.
Nice. Yeah. No, I love espresso, but I've never had a Nespresso. So yeah.
And Nespresso's the brand of they make the coffee maker, and I figured I'd give it a shot. Every morning, that's my first coffee. They're pretty good.
Oh, nice. There you go. You can text the show.
Send us the check for that, by the way.
Exactly. Yeah. I try and avoid saying brands on the show unless they're sponsoring me, but unless it's FEE, because I appreciate what you guys do. You can text the show this morning at 573-319-1586. And we did have our first collab actually yesterday. I'm excited to talk about it, Jon, because I wrote an article, that you guys contacted me about. You guys have started like a new financial literacy series. What's this all about?
Yeah, basically the whole project, I think it's called the Heroes Project or something. Really, like we used to do more pieces like this, but there is a need for, young people just understanding money, like understanding the basics of money. It's been a long time since I was in high school, but we never had any financial courses, anything like that. And there's a real appetite for it. If you've probably seen some of the news stories about young people don't know how to adult, right? And I don't want to be condescending because a lot of young people do know how to, right? And a lot of them do know financial stuff, but many don't. So all of these articles are going to be looking at different ways to kind of get people just basic parts about, money, how it works, how to make it. Your piece focused on just ways you can spend money to make money. Some basic entrepreneurial, tips and things like that. Other stuff is lifestyle related. Like, a lot of people I know that are good with money that say, before you can have financial literacy, you need emotional literacy. You need to have some good habits. You need to kind of understand the value of a dollar and things like this. I'll be honest, I didn't know much about this. I signed a massive loan, not as massive as the ones today, but you sign up for these loans as a kid. You don't really know, 10 years from now, 15 years, that's a lifetime away, right? You don't really understand the implications of what you're signing up for. So, we think it's good for people to understand those ideas better. And we got a whole series of content coming out in the coming months.
Yeah, so one of the things, I wrote the piece about how to spend money to make money is that, about 4 or 5 years ago, I started thinking about, all the money I had spent over the years on things like rent or fancy dinners or dates or, whatever. And this was money that was never coming back. And as I was looking at purchasing a home, I was thinking about, okay, well, the nice thing about owning versus renting is, yeah, you take the risk of having to do major repairs or different things like that, although there is homeowners insurance. But at least you're it's almost like depositing your money in a bank to a certain extent, right? So you're spending money, and there's a chance it could be like an investment, right? It's, and you could make money off of it. So I started thinking about ways that you could spend money to make money. And yesterday, after the article was published, a lady, some homeschooler lady, tweeted at me saying, finally, an article that actually contains some practical advice that isn't something like take $10,000 and invest it in some cockamamie harebrained scheme. You can take a small amount of money and use it to build up. And I mean, most entrepreneurs, John, they start with a very small amount of money, and they use that and their skills and their talents to turn that into more money. I'm currently consulting with someone right now who's another talent who wants to do a show just like mine, the Wake Up America show, right? And I spent about, $5,000 to build this show. I'm definitely going to make more than that on this production. But one of the things that I talked about in that article was 3D printing, right? I gave a link in that article. Some people missed it, but there was a link to a coupon in there for $100 off of an Ender 3 Pro 3D printer. And, I used that to buy 8 of them. And that's $800 spent. Right. But I've made thousands off of these 3D printers by, manufacturing products, plastic products, and selling them to customers who would rather than go out and buy a 3D printer themselves. There's a barrier to entry there, right? So the competition isn't very high. You go out there, you print a few items, and you shop them around to people who might be interested in them. And, I've spent money to build all that stuff, to build the 3D printer farm, to buy the plastic, and I've spent time learning how to use it. But now I've made more than I started with. Vending machines is another thing that people kind of look down on vending machines. I feel like they're kind of like, oh, these vending machines. They look at vending machines like it's not a big deal. But I mean, it's a legitimate business, and it's one that you can start with a very small amount of money, a small investment. Get your LLC or your S corp or whatever you're going to do. You can buy a vending machine off of eBay for like $1,500. Then all you really need to do is buy your chips and drinks or whatever it is that you got to do, keep it stocked, and you've got a regular steady income there. Most people think, well, I've got to go work for somebody else, or I have to, invest money in like tens of thousands of dollars, what have you. And investing is one of the things that we talk about there. But most people don't think when they spend money, am I spending money on something that is going to make me money? Most people, when they spend money, the money is gone. But just by changing how you think about how you spend money can make a big difference, especially over the long term in your wealth.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, even as a kid. I like the idea of it. I think people like the idea of being an entrepreneur. Like you have independence. I don't think, I think a lot of it comes down to time preferences. People don't have the patience to kind of get there to learn the stuff that you're talking about. But, like one of the things I think it's important to get people to think about, it's not just about wanting money. Getting good at entrepreneurship is seeing opportunities, right? It's seeing how you can serve other people. You're seeing a need out there. And once you identify those, most of the entrepreneurs I know that are successful that's what they're good at. They see that there's a need in society that they can bring. I don't seem to have that skill, but I liked your article because it shows you don't have to start big. I like the idea of start small. Start with something like a vending machine or printing. I'd love my daughter to get into this. Like she's very crafty, loves to make stuff, and I'm like, you know what? like getting a child kind of just starting small in entrepreneurship. So we have some ideas. We haven't executed them yet. But I love the idea that, everybody likes to make money. People forget that there are opportunities out there to do it. And, like I'm guilty of that. Like I get these ideas all the time. I never follow through on them. But eventually, I hear about other people that do. They have these streams of passive income, right? They got all these little revenue streams coming in, just making money for them. And I'm like, gosh, I want to do that someday. I don't really know how. My wife's a better executor than I am. So maybe we've talked in recent weeks, actually, when we were talking about your article, when you just the idea of your article, how do what are some good ideas? And she says, you get the idea, I'll execute. But the good part is anyone can do this, right?
That was my wife's. My wife did the same thing. She's like, because I like to create things. I like to, build things, and I like to, build the business, but I hate doing like the banal, like taping, packaging, and all that stuff. So my wife said to me, she goes, well, if you make the little Thomas Jefferson Buddhas and the George Washington Buddhas and you sell them, I'll package them up and just take them to the post office for you. And I was like, done. Hooray. All right.
Go.
Great. So
comparative advantage, right?
Exactly. And she actually really enjoys that. And it's been a viable business for us. And that's another thing that I talk about in the article is that when I first, started a business trying to sell merchandise, it was a lot more expensive and you didn't really have a good profit margin on things like that. But online shopping now has changed, and print on demand has changed so much. And I highly recommend that our listeners go to fee.org and read the article, because there's a bunch of really useful links in there, as well as coupons and things like that to get you started with some discounts. But it used to be that, you would make a t-shirt and it would be print on demand and it would cost $30 and you'd make like $3 on it. It was just not very good and it wasn't good quality. But that has changed dramatically. And in this article over at fee.org, the article talks about this new website that I use that has really low shipping costs, really low product costs, and tons of products. And they're very high quality. And as long as you're creative and you can come up with a design to slap on there, and you can talk to, successfully sell it, market it, you can make good money on these websites now. And that wasn't the case 5, 6, 7 years ago when I used to do this. So the technology is changing all the time. So a lot of times people who maybe they saw an opportunity, a few years ago and they're like, there really isn't much money in it. Sometimes those things change. So you kind of have to keep checking in. I wanted to switch topics, John, if you don't mind, to something that you brought up during the break, because I think people will find this interesting, talking about serving an audience. We libertarians and conservatives, we frequently complain about these social media companies not serving their audiences. And one of the things that, Rumble has done is to go out there and offer an alternative. People like ourselves, I am now streaming this show on Rumble, in part because, we're talking about machine guns today. I think I could be taken down on Facebook. And if I am, then we'll still be over on Rumble. I guess, and you saw this too, I guess Russell Brand has decided to move off of YouTube to Rumble. What's the story?
Yeah, I saw it shortly before we came on here. He was censored on YouTube, and he's a bit angry about it, and what was he censored over? It was over COVID stuff. I think I saw the one the piece that he was referring to last week. It was like everything kind of during the pandemic. If you strayed from the narrative, you risked being censored for misinformation. It didn't matter. Regular media could do this all day long. They could get things wrong, but it was going the right direction with the narrative. And you could be wrong in that direction, but if it was more in the skeptical, challenging the government's narrative, you risked being deplatformed or suspended or all of these things. Russell Brand got suspended, and I'm not sure if he's off YouTube or if he's, he has 5 million people there, so I bet he's not leaving it. But he's started on Rumble, and he's getting serious about that as a platform he announced. And I think that's great because it's it's the same thing with Twitter. I like Twitter. I like YouTube. They really have their business down. It's great, but they're censoring so aggressively that it makes it really hard to be content creators because you can't say what you want. So seeing people like Russell Brand go to alternative platforms, it's huge. He's going to bring massive audience with him. I'm just really, I don't know anything about Rumble. I know you're over there. I just like seeing competition because that's going to make it harder for people to do this sort of thing in the future.
Well, Russell Brand was talking about the double standard for the mainstream media versus the alternative media, because what was interesting is that, he said something that was incorrect. It was labeled as misinformation. He said, "Hey, I'm sorry, I got it wrong. I said that they were rolling out this program when they were really just testing it." So, he got shut down on YouTube. But he said that one of the things that's interesting is that Rachel Maddow came out on MSNBC and said, like a year ago, that if you get the COVID-19 vaccine, that it will prevent you from getting COVID. That was incorrect. That is misinformation. That video is still up on YouTube. They haven't taken that video down for misinformation. I mean, John, you and I, we see this. This is a double standard, clearly, right?
Not all misinformation is created equally, right? Like there's certain things that might be clear misinformation and you can get away with it. But once you start to challenge the narrative, that's where you're in the thorny territory. And we saw this early in the pandemic. We were kind of terrified. Like we published a ton of articles on this, but we started very carefully. You start testing the boundaries. What can we actually say? And we've seen people clipped. At Feed, we've been pretty fortunate. Like we really have. We've had some issues with TikTok, I think, but I don't know if it's related to that kind of censorship or whatever. But the other platforms, we've been able to navigate that. But it's really difficult. We've seen, like Alex Berenson, right? Like kicked off Twitter for challenging the vaccine narrative. And I have some of my friends couldn't stand Berenson. They say he's a clear misinformation, everything else. Well, Twitter let him back on. They said, "Gosh, this was our mistake." They let him back on. Like how do you challenge these ideas, these authoritarian ideas, if you can't speak about them? It's pretty Orwellian.
Yeah, I think we need more speech, not less. Even people that are clearly out there, saying things that aren't true. Whatever you think about Alex Jones, I'm sure a lot of people, my listeners, may like him, but I disagree with him on a lot. I still think he should be allowed to speak, and I was one of the people who was standing up for him. When the ban hammer came down, because I knew that I was next. People if they come after me, they're going to come after you guys too. So you got to stand up against tyranny when it starts small, and you have to defend the freedom of people, even the people that you disagree with on things, because they will eventually come for you. Jon Miltimore from the Foundation for Economic Education at fee.org. Thanks for letting me write that article for your website. It's a great article. You can read it at fee.org. Jon Miltimore, you're a great American and a patriot. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Hey, thanks a lot, Austin. Great being with you today. Have a good week.
Great having you on here today. Boy, we love having Jon Miltimore on the show. What do you think about Jon? Send me a text. 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. The Wake Up America show's got lots more to go. Judge Napolitano will be joining us this morning at 8 o'clock. And then at 8:30, I don't have a guest today. We're going to talk about 90s t-shirts that were disgusting trash. It's going to be fun. You don't want to miss a single minute of the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com.
I enlisted as a medic to be there to help my patients, and after an injury, I found myself as a patient. I experienced post-traumatic seizures. Depression is a big one that comes along with it, PTSD. So I pursued my PhD in neuroscience and regenerative medicine. The coalition has helped fund my academic pursuits. They genuinely care about helping the vet in whatever way that they can. Through supporting the coalition, you're supporting some of the veterans that have the biggest needs.
Visit saluteheroes.org to learn more.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share: Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
Thank you, Ben.
Had enough yet? Do facts no longer matter? Are lies to be encouraged instead of punished? This is not our inheritance. If truth no longer matters, we will not remain free for long. This is our generation's challenge, to defend our founders' hope that we the people could self-govern if we defend our right to get the facts. And right now, we're building the only defense of free people have, the facts, on every politician, every position they held, every statement they've made, every vote they've made, and any cash they've taken. It's the real history on those now pandering for your vote. There are hundreds of young people building our defense right now, and they need your help. We all have our passions, but as our ancestors knew, when events become so foul they threaten us all, we must stand and defend each other. Please, have our backs. Join us at votesmart.org.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be.
There is no typical firefighter.
Halloween is coming. The festival of Samhain approaches, and your lazy butt doesn't have a Halloween costume yet? How can you pledge allegiance to the Dark Lord this year and possibly offend everyone at the same time? Visit the AP for Liberty shop and get your shirt today. The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. So grab your government is scary tee and tell everyone at the party that you're here to help. Other great seasonal items are available as well, so don't miss out. Then visit AP for Liberty shop today. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
It's 7:56 and you're watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Petersen. It's time to rise and freedom. We're tracking Hurricane Ian this morning as it moves inland in Florida. It's expected to hit Florida as an extremely dangerous Category 4 storm. This will be Tampa Bay's first major storm in 100 years. Winds have been hitting 155 miles per hour as the storm is traveling over the Gulf of Mexico. We'll keep an eye on it this morning, and we'll also be discussing some of the most destructive hurricanes from American history. We are keeping the people of Florida in our thoughts and prayers today. If you're in Florida and you have an update for us, please send us a text, 573-319-1586. One of our listeners texted in this morning saying that they'd been thinking about entrepreneurship for me when I retire from the Army in 3 years. Been wanting to inspire my 11-year-old to be business-minded. This interview is the universe speaking to me. Thanks, Austin. Well, you're very welcome, and I sent the article over to you. Thank you for your service. Appreciate you very much. Now, Andy Opperman this morning was talking about those free machine guns that magically appeared in a crate that somebody bought from military surplus. What did Andy say? He said, I view the ATF as a dirty, agenda-driven, entrapment-prone organization. True. I would absolutely call them upon discovery of those weapons for fear of a setup or a sting. Okay, well, that's probably true. Definitely something you want to be careful of. But I mean, imagine, you just keep them in a safe. You don't say anything to anybody. Maybe every once in a while you take them out and you shoot them out on your farm lawn. You don't tell anybody you got them. And then one day, when you're on your deathbed, you say to your kids, Rosebud, that's the key combination to my safe. You'll find the secret to freedom inside. What would you do if you found free machine guns in a case? Send me a text, 573-319-1586. We'd love to hear from it. Are you enjoying now that the live chat is working? As you can see, if you're watching the show live, and for those who are watching it later, you can see the live chat is up on the screen. And what this does is it pulls in all of the comments from the different social networks, Facebook, YouTube. I'm not sure if Twitter is being pulled in or not, but it basically puts everybody's comments in there together. So I appreciate all of our followers. I'm trying to grow over on YouTube as well at AP for Liberty. I'm about halfway to the 4,000 watch hours that would allow me to monetize. I don't think Facebook is going to allow me to monetize the live streams. You have to have 600,000 minutes of watch time in the last 2 months, and that I don't think that's going to happen because Facebook suppresses my reach, and anything that I try and post on Facebook will only get like 2 or 3 shares because I'm in I'm in the naughty box. Oh well, I still feel good anyway. I'm growing over on Rumble. People are over at Wake Up America's show. I still got a reason to feel good. When we get back, we're going to talk to Judge Andrew Napolitano about Edward Snowden getting his Russian citizenship. Oh, he's gone Russian. We'll talk to the judge about that when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
My name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bush. This is my Didi's website. Now I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bush is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bush is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Didi made Frenchy bullshit to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Didi really likes it. Didi said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks. Need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake. Yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes. You like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchy Bush. Please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchy Bush blog for more fun and cool stuff.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
real-world experience.
It's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Good morning, it's 8:04. You're watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Petersen. It's time to rise and freedom. Edward Snowden was granted Russian citizenship, the libertarian-minded cyber sleuth who gave up his life of freedom here in the United States to become a whistleblower is now a Russian citizen. We'll talk to my good friend, Judge Andrew Napolitano, who's joining us for the very first time live and on camera so we can see his beautiful face right now. Good morning, Judge. Good to see you here.
Yeah, good morning, Austin. It's a pleasure to be with you. And I love that statement behind you. Freedom is natural, tyranny is man-made.
Amen, Judge. Amen. Yes, that's right. It's been an exciting few weeks. We've been excited to have you on the show over the phone. We're glad to now be able to see your face here. And, certainly you've got a lot of exciting podcast products and that you're offering now to the general public. The Judging Freedom podcast, which gets thousands to hundreds of thousands of views, which you can download on any of your podcast devices. And also you have a weekly column at judgenap.com, which I read religiously, and I highly recommend. Your newest column is about Edward Snowden being granted Russian citizenship. Judge, what's your take on this?
Well, people need to recognize the service that Snowden performed for the American public. He was an employee of a contractor that had a contract with the NSA. He was one of the 60,000 American spies when he realized that the NSA and the FBI were using the FISA court for surveillance warrants just as a subterfuge. But in reality, they were already downloading every keystroke on every mobile device and every desktop in the country. They were doing so obviously unconstitutionally because the Fourth Amendment requires a warrant. Even FISA is unconstitutional because the standard in the Fourth Amendment is probable cause of crime. The FISA standard is probable cause of speaking to a foreign person. So if you call your cousin in Toronto or your bookseller in London, then the NSA and the FBI can get a warrant to listen to your harmless telephone calls. All of your communications, not just the ones to your cousin in Toronto or your bookseller in Canada. That wasn't good enough for the NSA. The NSA decided it would capture everything that everybody communicates. So all fiber optic data coming into the United States, leaving the United States, and within the United States is captured by the NSA. Snowden revealed all of this. He also revealed that when the George W. Bush administration in 06 and 07 sort of bullied and scared a Congress into enacting legislation that gave the internet service providers and the telecom providers immunity from liability for allowing the NSA to hook directly into their mainframes, it also required those service providers to do so. So if you were to go to the NSA building in San Francisco and get off on an elevator on the wrong floor and somehow get through 2 layers of security, you'd find yourself on the NSA floor, and you would see the NSA computer operators plugged into the AT&T mainframes, gathering all the data that is transmitted on AT&T. So what is the point of all this? The point of all this is it's unconstitutional because it violates the Fourth Amendment. It's criminal because it constitutes computer hacking, whether authorized by the president or not. A couple of interesting stories about Snowden himself. You know, when he revealed all this information to our libertarian colleague Glenn Greenwald and a few others from the Guardian newspaper, he did so in Hong Kong. When they entered his hotel room, he said, "Let me have your mobile devices." And they said, "What are you going to do with them?" He said, "I'm going to put them in the hotel refrigerator," because he knew as an NSA agent that the walls of a refrigerator block surveillance. So the NSA would not have known that those 5 mobile devices were carried by people who were all in the same place. He then flew to Russia and was on his way to Latin America, being pursued by his former colleagues when the United States government rescinded his passport. Now, here's somebody never charged with a crime at the time and under the law perfectly innocent and a natural-born American citizen, but to make life miserable for him, they rescinded his passport. So he was stuck at the Moscow airport, and he said to the press, "I'd rather be stateless than voiceless." He got permanent resident status in Russia, and 2 days ago was made a Russian citizen, retaining his American citizenship. He's an American hero for the criminality that he exposed, which was perpetrated by the George W. Bush and Barack Obama administrations on everybody in the United States with a handheld device or a desktop.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, we are speaking to Judge Andrew Napolitano. You can read his weekly columns at judgenap.com. You can text the show if you have a question for the judge, 573-319-1586. Judge, your thoughts on the reasons that Russia decided to give Snowden a passport?
Well, I'm sure that this is intended to be a poke in the eye to Joe Biden and to the globalists in the State Department who have been providing American military hardware to the Ukrainians. You know, Putin's a butcher. Whether he has the right to take this property back that he says is for years part of Russia or not, he's not a nice guy, and he's not doing this to be kind to Edward Snowden. I think he's just trying to tell the American intelligence community, you know, we have an intelligence community as well, and we know what's going on. I can't imagine Putin would be this kind if some Russian FSB, the successor to the KGB agent, were to flee Moscow and reveal all of their intelligence secrets to the Western media. So this is not Putin being big-hearted or kind. This is Putin manipulating the West on the grand stage on which he operates, and on which he usually prevails when he does this.
And see, on that point, Judge, I think that's why a lot of people, most of them were neocons, but some of them sincere libertarians with a mind for national security, had said that they questioned the motives of people like Julian Assange because it seemed as if the the regimes that they were going after were always the American regimes, people like Hillary Clinton and her speeches to Goldman Sachs, and what they revealed of the crimes on the collateral murder video, which was revealed by Chelsea Manning, which you covered extensively on our show that we did together, Freedom Watch at Fox Business. So I mean, like there have to be likely some ulterior motives by intelligence agencies around the world. Judge, is there sometimes a blind spot? I guess I would ask, in defense of the hawks, just to make this interesting, sometimes a blind spot by libertarians in that we sometimes are guilty of claiming that America, is the cause of, all of the world's foreign policy woes. For example, the Ron Paul Institute this last week was getting pounded on Twitter for the question of Iran. They sort of insinuated sideways that the stoking of the tension in Iran was on behalf of CIA agents that are propagating and fomenting revolution there. I'm not saying that that's not true. It probably has been. But I mean, America is not the only evil government in the world. Isn't that the case?
Well, all government is evil because all government consists in the negation of liberty. As we talked about, the sign behind you, liberty is natural. Liberty is the default position. We are born with our rights. Governments only exist because they take our rights, including our property, away from us. And the American government and its empire building has been profoundly evil, going back 200 years, though much more aggressively in the 20th and 21st centuries. I'm with Ron Paul on all of this. Julian Assange is another national hero. I'll tell you, shortly before he left office, President Trump called me to talk about pardons. And I made a very strong pitch for, among other people, I won't give you their names because they were pardoned. You could guess who they were, for Julian Assange and for Edward Snowden. Now, at one point in 2017, when the DOJ indicted Snowden for the very, very same crimes for which the present DOJ is contemplating indicting former President Trump, then President Trump said Snowden should be executed. All right, a typical hyperbole from him. After 4 years in the White House, he listened patiently to my pitch for Snowden and Assange to be pardoned. Of course, after I hung up the phone with him, I am sure that one of the 15 security people that were on the phone call listening said, the judge is crazy. Don't listen to him. These two guys are bad guys, whatever. They weren't pardoned. They both exposed American government at its worst. Snowden capturing every idea that is transmitted. Boy, if the Fourth Amendment was written to prevent anything, it was written to prevent that without a legitimate search warrant. Assange, murder, war crimes, and rejoicing over it in the George W. Bush administration.
Judge,
I'm a fan more of Beethoven and Mozart and Tchaikovsky than I am Pink Floyd. But Roger Waters, the former bassist for Pink Floyd the other day, was kicked out of Poland, where he was about to give a concert, because he wrote a letter to Mrs. Zelensky saying, what do you expect Russia to do? When Gorbachev freed Eastern Europe, Jim Baker and George H.W. Bush, this is from Roger Waters' letter. It sounds like it was written by Ron Paul. Gorbachev was promised that NATO would never move eastward. It's now 800 miles eastward. What do you expect Putin to do? So the American government is an avaricious empire builder that is willing to trample other governments' sovereignty so that the globalists can have their say. I'm sorry my answer is so long.
No, it's okay, Judge. This is why we have you. I'm here to listen to you. We want to hear from you. That's why I bring you on, to hear your genius. We're speaking to Judge Andrew Napolitano. He's the host of the Judging Freedom podcast. Again, and now I'm going to push you a little bit on this one, Judge, because I do think this makes more interesting banter. Not necessarily because I'm hawkish, but because I want to see how you respond. But
you are hawkish for liberty.
Yes, but I wonder because in an age post World War II, with the new world order as it was created in the aftermath of that global conflict, right? The Soviet Union became a global power. It was an evil empire. It restricted the liberties of its citizens. We talked about that story about people. The first person who sat down from clapping was clapped in irons and taken to the gulag, right? And they committed acts of aggression. They had spies in our country. How, if the United States, if the United States is not an aggressor, how can the United States respond to subterfuge, infiltration, disinformation? How should the United States, if it were not the aggressor, we'll say in some scenario or another, how could the United States, or should the United States, in a libertarian fashion, respond to, for example, foreign spying? Right? If we were to determine that that we had spies in the United States, yeah, we try and catch them and eject them. But I mean, is it not libertarian to engage in spying in order to protect oneself from spying?
I don't think it's particularly unlibertarian to engage in spying. Now, we're not talking about spying on the American public. We're talking about spying on known operatives of foreign countries. When the FISA court was first established, the standard for getting a FISA warrant was anyone speaking to a foreign agent. Then they changed it to anyone speaking to a foreign person. Then they changed it to anyone who spoke to anyone who spoke to anyone who was a foreign person. I mean, they've expanded it well beyond its original intention. And of course, I condemn what happened in Iran 2 weeks ago when the girl who was arrested because she didn't have a headscarf on 2 days later was dead. But we cannot go about the world, this phrase, we all do, looking for monsters to slay, because there will be no end to our looking. When we bring force to other countries, we don't spread liberty, we spread violence. It is none of our business if the Soviet Union, Russia, is of the view that 2/3 of Ukraine is really Russian. That's not an American security interest unless you are of the Tony Blinken mindset that we must do everything possible to weaken Putin so that somebody will replace him. How do we know who's going to replace him? Could be somebody worse than he is. Putin is a genius on the international diplomatic stage. Now, he may have overplayed his hand in Ukraine. Time will tell.
I'd like
Colonel Douglas McGregor, whom you and I both respect, is of the view that the war is effectively over and Putin has effectively won. And the United States is only extending bloodshed by continuing to send military equipment there and troops on the ground out of uniform so that we can deny they're there, showing the Ukrainians how to use the American equipment.
Okay, Judge, I'd
Short
like to
answer, if Russian agents are here trying to steal government secrets, there shouldn't be any government secrets for them to steal. What are they going to steal? Biden's conversations with Pelosi? What are the secrets that they're going to steal?
Okay. Now, I've got one last little challenge for you, Judge, and please forgive me. This is my last question here, and I'm going to play a little game with you, and I hope you don't mind. This is just, it dwells in a hypothetical, but it rests on a philosophical
Are these
principle.
the types of games we played when we worked together at Fox News?
Yes. This is, I think, an interesting question because it lies upon a philosophical principle of utilitarianism versus deontologicalism. Now we're getting into real big brain stuff here, Judge. This is the difference between a Judge Knapp libertarian and a John Stossel libertarian. The philosophical libertarian.
John is a libertarian?
So my question is this, right? Let's say I'm a citizen who happened to have, acquire a piece of military equipment that was paid for by the U.S. taxpayer. Let's say it's a military rifle, and it was completely paid for by the U.S. taxpayer. It's got one bullet in it. Now, floating by me in the ocean is someone who has a hostage, right? And they've got an American citizen hostage. Now, I can choose to fire that bullet and take out that person who has the hostage and save that person, but I am using a taxpayer-funded weapon where the taxpayer money was appropriated via theft. If taxation is theft, then I should return that rifle to the U.S. taxpayer rather than save the person's life. The philosophical principle, the fundamental principle that I'm getting in here is small harms done to achieve large gains. And this is kind of the difference between a utilitarian libertarian approach versus the hard philosophical person, which is to say, no, you cannot, that rifle is being used with stolen money, that taxation is theft, and you cannot fire that bullet because that money does not belong to you. It was stolen funds. It should be returned. So is there ever a situation, I guess I'm asking, Judge, where a small harm that's done, a small amount of taxation, a small harm done here that would achieve large gains, is that ever allowable or acceptable to you in your philosophical worldview?
To me, the conundrum has an easy answer. The right to life is the highest right there is. It's even a higher right than the right to own property. So using the bullet to save the life of the hostage, if the life was truly in peril and about to die, that's an easy answer. So yes, you could fire that bullet and fire it accurately because you're only going to have one shot. On the other hand, all taxation is theft unless everybody has consented to it. Now, I'm not talking about user fees, also known as tariffs, which is what the federal government subsisted on, as well as assessments to the states before the income tax. I'm talking about the idea that the criminal gang down the street from my farm takes many, many thousands of dollars from me just for existing here. They call themselves the town council. I call them the local mafia, because they basically use a mafia model: your money or else. So taxation is theft, but once that you have the right to save a human life, that's the thing to do.
See, that's a very interesting philosophical principle, and there are other scenarios where, for example, and you as a judge might have dealt with this, where lifeboat in a storm, right? If you have a boat and there's a hurricane coming, are you allowed to tie up your boat to someone's jetty that's a privately owned jetty? Well, you can to save your life, but if your boat harms the jetty, then you might be responsible for some damages, right? So you
would definitely be responsible for the damages. You might even be responsible for the fair rental value of the space after the storm passed. It's basically sort of a lease with just one party consenting to it. All of this stems from the natural law, Austin, which, as you know, teaches that our rights come from our humanity, but not all rights are equal. The highest right is the right to live, and everything else defers to it. So this is Jean Valjean in Les Mis. If he and his children are really starving to death, that is about to expire, he can take that pie or that loaf of bread for which he was pursued by Javert for months and give it to his children to preserve their life. Now, a lot of our Rothbardian friends don't like to hear that, because to them, private property is God. To me, God is God, and the greatest gift he gave us is life.
See, this is fascinating stuff, Judge, and we don't have these kinds of conversations with anybody else. You won't find them anywhere else. Well, maybe you can find them.
Well, what happens when Stossel comes on your show? What does he talk about?
Well, he taught you. Well, it's never this deep, Judge, but I think probably the only other show where you can get these kinds of conversations is on your own podcast on Judging Freedom, which you can download on any of your mobile devices. I highly recommend it. Make sure you follow the judge on all those judges. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners before I let you go?
No, I other than the fact that the joy and happiness that you and I have when we have these conversations, we were once privileged to share 5 days a week, 8 hours a day when we worked together at Fox, and those days are history. And now I'm here and you're there, and hopefully we're still moving the needle in the true north direction, that human liberty is natural and the government is artificial, and it needs to be restrained at every single opportunity.
Well, obviously, Judge, you've been the greatest mentor that I've had in my entire life. You're a patriot and a true friend of liberty, and we certainly salute you. Thank you very much for your time today, sir.
All the best, my dear friend.
Thank you very much. Wow. Good stuff. Like I said, you don't get those kinds of conversations anywhere else. Again, maybe on the Judge's show, Judging Freedom. The Wake Up America show with Austin Petersen is something unique. Completely crowdfunded, supported by people like you. If you liked that conversation, why don't you do me a favor? Support the show. Become a monthly pledger over at wakeupamericashow.com/support. Was that conversation worth $5 a month? I think it was. Don't you? Do me a favor. Head over to wakeupamericashow.com/support. Become a monthly pledger. Help me to stay cancel-proof so that we can continue to have conversations just like that and many more. We went long on that one. So when we get back, we're going to have a little bit more fun. We're going to talk about some 90s t-shirt trends that were absolutely terrible. All that and more when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com.
Hello, my name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bullshit. This is my Dee website. Now I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bullshit is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bullshit is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Dee made Frenchy Bullshit to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Dee really likes it. Dee said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks. Need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake. Yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes. You like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchy Bullshit. Please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchy Bullshit blog for more fun and cool stuff.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
Do you have any real-world experience?
it's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway.
I need help.
You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Good morning, it's 8:32, and you're watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Petersen. Thanks so much for tuning into the show. Glad to have you here. What did you think of that interview with Judge Andrew Napolitano? Didn't it just make you feel kind of, oh, so good. It was awesome. You can text the show this morning at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Andy Opperman texted in, said, always love the judge. Who gets to decide, though, which harm is small and which good is great? If it's me, groovy. If it's someone else, we're going to have a problem. Yeah, I get that, but I liked his Jean Valjean reference, and this is something that, libertarians really struggle with, and the judge even, mentioned there about Murray Rothbard and, Rothbardians talking about private property being the highest good, and, whether or not you can do small harms in order to achieve great good things, right? It's sort of like, in essence, without using a communist phrase here, it's like, in order to make an omelet, you have to break a few eggs, right? In order to build a house, you have to break ground, and, you have to, in order to create, you first must destroy, right? It's kind of that philosophical principle there. The question just is, how much harm is being done in order to do some greater thing, right? The judge says all taxation is theft, but if the theft has already occurred and you're using that bullet that was paid for with taxpayer dollars to save somebody's life, well, protecting life is the highest good. And governments are instituted among men to protect life, liberty, and then property. And I guess the judge seems to think that there's an order to that. What do you think? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. One listener texted in and said that he's hilarious. I think she's talking about the judge. Again, text in 573-319-1586. We'd love to hear from you. Over on the live streams this morning, Adam Armstrong says, I may believe Alex Jones is right, but I know people like you, Tim Cast, and Dave Smith are building the pro-human future necessary to defeat the New World Order. Well, thank you very much on that one. Judge needs to go on Rumble, says Corey Kleiber. Yeah, that's a good idea. The judge and I are working on some stuff behind the scenes, so definitely, keep an eye out for future projects involving your intrepid hero here with AP and the judge, Augie and the judge. So we've definitely got some exciting stuff coming up for you don't want to miss. Okay, so let's see what we got here. 90s t-shirt trends that were pure trash. So I saw this a couple of days ago and I was going to talk about it, but there's been so much breaking news, and definitely we want to keep an eye on what's going on in Florida with Hurricane Ian. You can send us a text if you're in Florida with an update. Please do, so we can share it. 573-319-1586. Just want to make sure that we're being respectful here, of course, because there are people, our fellow Americans, our fellow humans whose lives are in danger, and it's something that we want to keep an eye on this morning. I am going to switch over, though, now to this story just to have a little bit of fun. Some of you were not alive in the 1990s, or you were just little babies in the 1990s, so you might not remember some of these 90s t-shirt trends that were pure trash, but I remember these. No Fear. This is from a website that am ashamed to admit I read, Cracked Magazine, which you can, if you're looking at the stream right now, you can see is the ones who are talking about this article. But these No Fear shirts, it's a good place to start, right? Because it kind of talks about that early 90s misplaced aggression in every possible way. No Fear shirts found the way to bottle the energy of a kid whose stepdad just walked in on him performing a fatality in Mortal Kombat and returned the game for Castle of Illusion starring Mickey Mouse. Do you remember the No Fear shirts? And they were always these, very, aggressive, in your face. Bottom of the ninth, down by 3, bases loaded, full count, 2 outs. No fear, right? So that was kind of like the typical no fear setup, right? Some unwinnable situation. But, the thing was, and I liked how Cracked put this, they said the problem is that you're wearing these shirts at your grandma's house as you watch Wheel of Fortune and pick at a casserole full. That's right. And you're still afraid. I'm not scared. I'm not afraid. I'm tough. I'm an animal and I will eat you if I have to. No fear. God, if you remember these t-shirts, or if there were any other 90s t-shirt trends that you can remember, send me a text 573-319-1586. Again, Cracked writes, dude, relax. This is a Sparrow. You're inside a Sparrow right now. Everything's fine. Nobody needs to be eaten. I know you've got no fear. That's really cool. Just settle down. Stop crying. We'll get you a slice of pepperoni. I know you're tough, big guy. We all know you'll eat every last one of us inside of this Sparrow if you have to. Sparrow. It's Michael Scott's favorite New York pizza place.
No, God! No!
Or this one, he who dies with the most toys still dies. I never saw that one. Fear not, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, right? Christian parody shirts. And that was the thing too. Remember in the 90s, you would have a t-shirt trend like that, and then they would have the Christian parodies of the shirts. Like the Christians would always have a parody of like, the music trends of the day, right? You had like grunge. I remember going to church camp in the 1990s, and they would bring in the bands. What was the band? God, I'm not going to remember now. What are they saying? What would people think if they find that I'm a Jesus freak? And you would go to these like Christian rock concerts, and it was kind of like, oh, we're all here, we're all rocking out for Jesus and stuff. And, then your parents, if your parents were really super Christian in the 90s, then you would get, well, first of all, Veggie Tales, but that was for like little kids, so I didn't watch Veggie Tales. But they would give you like Bible Man. It was like a superhero that was like a Bible Man, and I didn't watch it, but I mean, there were always these really, no offense, Christians, lame Christian parodies of pop culture at the time. And I remember going to, I think I got my first kiss at the Baptist. You would go to the church camps that I got 1990s. Anyways, I remember big dog shirts. And the thing about the big dog shirts was that it was always like my big fat friends, like my big fat friends who would wear these. Do you remember these big dog shirts that guys would wear in the 1990s? The one that's large and in charge, head honcho, a fellow who's way up there, right? And then they had Big Dog Trucking Company. Let me show you my big rig. And it's kind of like, oh, okay, right. Well, it was the 90s, right? Every t-shirt you wore had to be about a penis at some point. And apparently even dog penises, big trucker dog penises. Okay. And then there was the Unleashables, Al Capone, Chaser, and Cat Breath. I don't remember that shirt. High 4, I think a bunch of my friends would wear that one. Again, these were t-shirts that they would wear while playing basketball in the suburbs at Silver Lake back in Raymore in like 1995. Oh yes, how could we forget co-ed naked shirts? You've got to remember, this is the real trash, says Cracked. The stuff we should point to when anyone longs for a return to the 90s, right? And that there is a lot of nostalgia these days for nostalgia. Part of the initiation that all today kids should go through before they're allowed to wear that vintage Nirvana shirt. I love it. They should have to listen to the AOL dial-up noise on full blast every time they want to send a text to their friends, and sit through an entire summer's worth of Jay Leno monologues about O.J. Simpson, and wear a line of co-ed naked shirts into the wild for their first semester of college. Oh my God. Can you imagine if a college student actually showed up with a t-shirt, well, co-ed naked shirt on campus? I don't know what they do to you. I have a shirt that would have gotten me murdered that I wore in college. And maybe I only wore it twice. And I still have the shirt, I'm pretty sure. But I had a shirt that said, "Women are property." Okay, it was a joke, all right? Now, to be fair, it was given to me by an actual misogynist, but it was the 90s. I went to college in 1999, and I'm pretty sure that's the year that I wore the shirt. And, it was meant as a joke, right? Laugh. Okay, yeah, exactly. It's funny, right? Or maybe it's not funny. I don't know.
Perfect.
And all the ladies are like, not sure about that one. Yeah, but everybody remembers co-ed naked shirts. Softball. If you're in scoring position, we'll drive you home. Okay. Co-ed naked bar hopping. Have a ball till last call. Okay, yeah, I guess. Co-ed naked, let's see. Co-ed naked inline skating. Knee pads optional. Okay, yeah, I guess, right? Yeah, I think we know what they're going for right there. Co-ed naked firefighting shirts. Find them hot, leave them wet. I don't think so. Chit Rodriguez. I never saw these, and I'm pretty sure that these today would be considered a hate crime. Racist mascots were still running wild. People hadn't taken a moment and thought about, is this racist? Chit Rodriguez is an example of how far we've come in the world of t-shirts. Chit runs downhill. Okay, yeah, you get it, right? No, they weren't that funny. You weren't allowed to wear a lot of these shirts. You weren't allowed to wear in my high school. You couldn't obviously wear co-ed naked shirts. You couldn't wear. I mean, there's no way you could have worn a Chit Rodriguez shirt. But I mean, this must have been for like bikers and stuff. Tough Chit, right? But the one shirts that you weren't allowed to wear anywhere near Raymore Peculiar High School, class of 1999, but everybody still had them. Big Johnson. Do you guys remember these absolute trash slimeball shirts? Big Johnson hand jacks. You'll get your nuts off easier when your Johnson's been fully jacked. Big Johnson hand jacks. Yeah. Or Big Johnson bungee cords. Well, there's certain things you shouldn't do, even with a Big Johnson. Get it? Oh, God. Did you have one of these shirts? I bet you Chris, if I had to guess, I would bet that Chris Morrill had one. Big Johnson pizza delivery. Guaranteed to come in 30 minutes or more. Yeah, it was a good art style. I thought it was funny, but I was also a child. But, fully grown adults actually wore those shirts. And yeah, if you could believe it. Yeah, I can believe it. How about you? All right. Now, for the last segment, before I let you go, we're going to talk about this article that a friend of mine sent me. And this story is about men avoiding women for fear of being creepy. Well, if you just don't wear Big Johnson shirts, and you'll be fine. How did guys get girls in the 1990s? Certainly weren't wearing shirts like that. Big dog shirts, right? Co-ed naked shirts. I bet you some of you still have them in your closets. All right, well, we're going to talk about men avoiding women for fear of being creepy when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com.
I enlisted as a medic to be there to help my patients, and after an injury, I found myself as a patient. I experienced post-traumatic seizures. Depression is a big one that comes along with it, PTSD. So I pursued my PhD in neuroscience and regenerative medicine. The coalition has helped fund my academic pursuits. They genuinely care about helping the vet in whatever way that they can. Through supporting the coalition, you're supporting some of the veterans that have the biggest needs.
Visit saluteheroes.org to learn more.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun. Thank you, Ben.
enough yet? Do facts no longer matter? Are lies to be encouraged instead of punished? This is not our inheritance. If truth no longer matters, we will not remain free for long. This is our generation's challenge, to defend our founders' hope that we the people could self-govern if we defend our right to get the facts. And right now, we're building the only defense of free people have, the facts, on every politician, every position they held, every statement they've made, every vote they've made, and any cash they've taken. It's the real history on those now pandering for your vote. There are hundreds of young people building our defense right now, and they need your help. We all have our passions, but as our ancestors knew, when events become so foul they threaten us all, we must stand and defend each other. Please, have our backs. Join us at votesmart.org.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? You can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be.
There is no typical firefighter.
Halloween is coming. The festival of Samhain approaches, and your lazy butt doesn't have a Halloween costume yet? How can you pledge allegiance to the Dark Lord this year and possibly offend everyone at the same time? Visit the AP for Liberty shop and get your shirt today. The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. So grab your government is scary tee and tell everyone at the party that you're here to help. Other great seasonal items are available as well, so don't miss out. Then visit AP for Liberty shop today. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Morning. It's 8:48. You're watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Petersen. It's time to rise in freedom. How are we doing so far today? Send me a text, 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. What was your favorite part of the show today? Love to hear your feedback on this one. Don't forget that this Friday, I am gifting this wooden sign that the judge really loved behind the desk. If you're watching us live right now or watching the playback later, you can see freedom is natural, tyranny is man-made. This awesome wooden sign can go up in your house or in your shop for free. All you've got to do is either give us your email, and that's free. Just head over to apforlibertyshop.com. Give us your email. You'll get a free entry to win. Alternatively, though, you could help support the show if you're not a monthly supporter yet. A pledger. Going to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. If you become a monthly pledger, you get all kinds of awesome benefits. You get 20% off the AP for Liberty shop, and you get monthly prize drawings. So not only could you win this sign, but every month we're going to give away a gift from the shop for free to our pledgers. I'm also going to look at adding as many benefits as I can to make it as valuable as possible. But remember, there's no bi-weekly paycheck coming for the Wake Up America show to keep us on air. The only way that we can survive, because certainly social media, the big tech companies do not want us to broadcast this show. The only way that we can continue to do it is through the support of freedom fighters like you. So head over to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Help keep the show alive. You can make a $5 pledge, $10 pledge. You could even do $17.76 a month. Petersen's Patriots Pledge Program. What do you think? This morning, Tony Allegra, who's escaped from Florida, made it to South Carolina, says he remembered all of the shirts except the Chit ones. Yeah, that wasn't a thing either. I never saw Chit Rodriguez. Here's the thing. If a Hispanic person wore the Chit Rodriguez shirt, Is it not racist anymore? Is it okay for them to wear it? See, the rules of political correctness have changed since the 1990s, for what I can remember. Um, Half of single men avoid approaching women for fear of seeming creepy. Men avoid women out of fear of being creepy. 44% of men said that the fear of being creepy reduces their likelihood of, quote, interacting with women generally. This jumps to 53% of men who reported that they are single. This is fascinating. A recent article in Psychology Today reports that an increasing number of men are apparently afraid to approach women for fear of being perceived as creepy. This, again, Psychology Today. But there's a big difference between coming on to someone and coming off as creepy, says online dating coach Blair Anderson. She conducted this survey about what it means to be creepy in an online dating world. Did you see this story recently too about clubs? A club in Australia that said that you can actually get kicked out of the club if you stare at women, if you're for staring, right? So, obviously, now I'm going to preface this and just say, are there some creepy guys out there? Yes, absolutely. And are creepy guys bad? Sure, right? But the definition of creepy over the last decade or so has expanded to basically be 99% of men, in my opinion. Anderson, the dating coach, conducted surveys, one in which she studied 2,000 American women. That's a big sample size, between the ages of 18 and 40, with the aim of gaining a better understanding of what behavior fell into the category of creepy. In the other, she surveyed 1,000 American men between 18 and 40 to understand the extent of their fear approaching women. She found that women regularly experience creepy behaviors. 82% of women reported experiencing creepy behaviors. And sometimes, they say, often or constantly, men avoid women out of fear of being creepy. 44% of men said the fear of being creepy reduces their likelihood of interacting with women generally. And then that jumped to 53% of the men who reported that they are single. That's interesting. So there are 9 creepy behaviors they say that men should avoid. Staring. I'll get to that in a second. Unwanted contact on social media. Inappropriate comments, controlling behaviors, won't accept no, unwanted physical contact, pressure for sex, clinginess, and physical stalking. So basically, almost every single tool in the player's toolkit is considered creepy these days. It's my opinion that you're really only creepy, guys, if you're unattractive. If you're a very attractive man, then your creepiness factor goes down by an order of magnitude. But in these, let's go through these 9 creepy behaviors one at a time. Number 1, staring. Okay, I'm going to call BS on this one, because in order to make eye contact with someone, you have to try and get their attention. In order to try and get their attention, you stare at them. Now, are there differences in staring? Sure there are. If you stare at somebody like this, it's creepy. Okay, yeah, it's creepy. Yeah, it's weird. It's very creepy.
How dare you?
Right. But if you staring could be something like this, right? Is it not staring if you're smiling? Right. How do you attract somebody's attention if you don't look at them? Okay. So that's considered creepy. Again, it's considered creepy to stare, they say. Now, number 2 on this one is unwanted contact on social media. I mean, I'm sure this happens to the ladies, and it happens to guys, right? It happens to guys all the time too. But I mean, you're not allowed to look at them. You're not allowed to contact them on social media, right? Inappropriate comments. You're not allowed to make a joke. Controlling behavior. So what do you consider controlling behavior, right? And under what circumstances? Won't accept no. Gentlemen, if you accept no, you're never going to get a girlfriend. I'm sorry. But for the guys who are out there right now who are watching this, who are single, who are complaining about the dating scene and all that kind of stuff, if you accept no for an answer, you're just going to be alone. Okay. You can't just accept no. The first time you hear no, right, it depends on the no, how they say it, inflection, context, right? There's a difference between no and no, right? There is. And subtext and context are very important things. Unwanted physical contact, obviously. Don't put your hands on somebody. Right. You don't put your hands on somebody unless you're sitting down with them, next to them. You've had a nice conversation. You feel comfortable with them. They feel comfortable. Like, you should be able to feel out when it's okay to make contact with somebody. But this whole concept or idea that you're going to say, "May I please touch you?" The answer is going to be no. The answer is going to be, it's always going to be no. Right. So, I mean, I'm sorry, guys. I mean, I feel bad for all the guys out there who are trying to dance, who are trying to get out there, and do the dance of love. Or if you're single right now, it's a nightmare out there. I made it out just on the tail end. It's over. It's over for most of y'all. I mean, it's just going to be hell for you. And I just thank God every day for my beautiful Stephanie Petersen, and that I found her like on the tail end of that stuff, because I was in the dating scene for a while there when it's, was Tinder and Bumble and Hinge and all that crap. And oh God, it was an absolute nightmare. Camellia Peterson says, "Who boy, you're right, but that don't accept no is going to get you in trouble." Yeah, well, girls like guys who are a little bit of trouble. Girls like guys who are a little bit of trouble. And if you don't recognize that as a man, again, you're going to fail. And, being a little bit of a troublemaker is a good thing for a man, right? Not necessarily for a woman, but it's a good thing for a man. Let's continue on. Pressure for sex. What do you consider pressure, right? Are you dating? Are you boyfriend and girlfriend? Like, pressure, it's kind of like, come on, honey, it's been, 6 hours. Let's go, right? Again, a lot of these things are a little bit too broad for me. Doug Hill over in the live stream says, "Regardless of gender, I retain most things people tell me in a casual conversation. I then feel the need to suppress some of that for fear is coming off as creepy." Clinginess, yeah, whatever you do, guys, do not come off as clingy. Clinginess is one of the worst things that you can do. You have to, and, listen, I don't have to do this with my wife. It's nice. I found the one good girl out there, and, 95% of women are not marriage material, gentlemen. 95% of women are not marriage material. That 5% of women who are marriage material, you won't have to worry too much about clinginess, but you should still watch it, right? You need to be self-sufficient. You need to be independent. You need to, you need to be okay with being alone. And again, this is not the case in my situation. I found a unicorn in my scenario, and I used to have to do this in relationships, act like you don't need them. Right? I won't say want them, because of course they want to be wanted, but if you want to date or at least have a relationship, and if you're not looking to get married, clinginess is a big no-no. It's a big, big no-no. And the last one, physical stalking. Yeah, what the hell's wrong with you? Don't stalk people, right? Stay the hell with it. If you can tell that somebody's not interested in you that much, and they have said no, and then they've left the situation, don't stalk them. Don't show up. There's no weird 80s movie where you show up with a boombox and play a song underneath her window and she suddenly falls in love with you. Real life is not Romeo and Juliet. So obviously, yes, stay the hell away from physical stalking. But yeah, clingy thing goes for women too, although guys like to be wanted and needed. Matt Unruh says, "Yes, Lord, I also found a unicorn in the end too." Well, good for you, Matt Unruh. Yeah. So, staring, guys, just depends on how you do it. Unwanted contact in social media, too bad. You got to hit up the DMs these days. You just have to do it. Do it. Hit up the DMs. They're not going to want it, they claim, until they do, until they answer you. And if they respond, you're in. Don't say something like, "Hey." Say something interesting. All right? Come up with a good joke. Inappropriate comments, that's subjective. Sometimes you got to let her rip. Pull out your Big Johnson t-shirt. Controlling behaviors, I don't know what that means. Won't accept no. You can't accept no, guys, or you're going to be alone forever. Unwanted physical contact, yeah, don't touch people, obviously, they don't want you to. Pressure for sex, come on, ladies. Just give it up. Clinginess. Oh, yeah. Like I said, guys, you might have to act like you don't really love her and want her and act clingy just in order to keep her around. It's tough out there. It's tough. Chris Morrill says, "I could talk for hours about how 80s rom-coms gave me unrealistic views of how to woo women." All of us, bro. All of us. Anyways, that's the end of the segment. I gotta run. It's 9 a.m. Stick around, watch the commercials, help us support these sponsors because they help bring the show to you every single day. Women need to calm down, Camellia Petersen says. Yes, calm down. She also says she's never gotten inappropriate DMs. Gentlemen, there's your chance. See you tomorrow on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today.
Fire.
Your printing company stinks. They charge you too much money and they don't love America enough. We've got the solution. Patriot Printing USA. Whether you're running for office, saving souls, or just need business cards that will get you the new job you've been looking for, Patriot Printing USA has got you covered with the best prices around. Palm cards, brochures, bumper stickers, door hangers, you name it, we've got it. PatriotPrintingUSA.com. That's PatriotPrintingUSA.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
Average Americans are turning into conspiracy theorists at an unprecedented rate. Flip City Magazine was created for new converts to aid in their in-depth research along the path of absolute truth. We offer the hardest-hitting news and opinion delivered uncensored in print directly to your door. Display proudly on your coffee table or hide discreetly under your mattress. Flip City is the magazine they don't want you to see, much less read. Subscribe to Flip City Magazine today at flipcitymag.com.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.